Welcome.
Fantastic.
Hi. Hello. It's so strange this time of life, isn't it? It's really bizarre doing all these online meetings and chats, but it's also kind of cool as well because I don't think many of us would have had the idea or opportunities to reach out to so many people at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of people get quite worked up about the fact that they have to work from home, but I think it's actually opened up a whole stack of opportunities. I
Yeah.
think that it's improved, time spent with family. I think that
Oh, yeah.
it's reduced commute times. I think there's many benefits.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I've been loving being able to cook myself a meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and not eat it out of a takeaway container in
Yeah,
between
no,
jobs. So it's definitely
yeah.
something I've been enjoying.
I think it's like anything. I think that there's always a pretty even balance of positives and negatives. It's just sometimes depending on your perception, where
Oh,
you're
for
at.
sure. Yeah, definitely. There's been some contrast amongst all the blessings, definitely.
Sure. I was really keen to talk to you because I've actually got a girl who I'm working with who's interested in doing dance as a career.
Yep.
And I think it's that this sort of the way that our conversation started is really relevant because one of the things that her family, her parents are concerned about is that obviously dance is something that's a very face-to-face interactive experience, either whether it be performance or teaching.
Yep.
It's pretty dependent on that
Yeah.
interconnection.
Yeah.
And I think given where things are at, I suppose there is a level of concern about some of the difficulties around pursuing a career with these types of restrictions that we're now experiencing. So that's
Yep.
obviously something. But I think that one of the things, I was having a look at all the different like all of your creative pursuits, and
Yeah.
I think one of the things that strikes me when I have a look at the things that are obviously passions for you are that there's such a high level of creativity.
Yeah.
And what you've been able to do is to embrace all of those aspects of yourself and create a business around what you love. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's absolutely brilliant because a
Thank
lot of
you.
people feel like they've got to shoehorn themselves into a solution.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems to me like you've gone, I love dance, I love Pilates, I love art.
Yeah.
I have like a lot of different passions. And what I've done is I acknowledge those and I bring them all together in what I do. And so I think I find that very inspiring.
Thank you. You've basically hit the nail on the head. I had spent a lot of my younger adult life pursuing dance as like my main focus, my main passion, but never fully being able to just choose one thing that I love because creativity is such a natural state of like a heart quality where
Yeah.
that sort of cheesy way of saying you go where your heart is, where it lights up, and I could never turn that off. So for me to yeah, totally. And I remember a few conversations growing up with my parents, especially with my dad. He'd say, I think it was after my first year of full-time dance training, and I was looking at pursuing maybe a makeup course so that could contrast but also complement within the industry. A lot of my dancing friends have pursued makeup as well, just coincidentally as the years had progressed, and it has benefited them so well, because they get to see the background of the dance world without having to rely on just booking the dance gigs. So it's still definitely part of the creative arts rather than just being a dancer. However, my dad looked at that as, of course, because I'd loved dancing since I was 4 and my focus was dancing. And when I've kind of come up with the idea of, well, maybe I do want to do a makeup course as well. It would be good to have something to fall back on, was the language we've used in the past. And he was like, well, you've just done your full-time course. Why are you getting distracted? That's usually the conversation people would have with anyone who's trying to do lots of things, is you're getting distracted. But for me, it was like, well, no, I love dancing, but I also can do this too. Like, why not? I've always been quite the person that goes against the grain or outside the box type thinking.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could create my own platform and my own business and grow from there, it just means that I'm always working. So, you know, when the dancing industry peaks, it's normally in the corporate season, you know, Christmas and holidays and festivals.
Mhm.
And unfortunately for dancers, that's when everyone else goes on a holiday. So we kind of miss out
Mhm.
on family and social and rest times that everyone else would typically get. So for me to know that I've got that in my back pocket, but also in the quiet times, I've got these other things that I can pursue that are also very seasonal, you know, like
Yeah.
wedding choreography. It doesn't happen
I,
every month, you know, but it's something that pops up. I do
I
about
love
maybe 3 or 4 a year, and it's in like intensive, it's personalized, it's, you know, I'm editing music and I'm creating choreography and I'm using all of my heart intelligence, emotional intelligence skills to build on someone's relationship before they get married. It's really quite special. It's
yeah,
like not
I
formal at
loved
all.
I saw that and I absolutely loved it. I thought that is just, there is so much more to it than teaching somebody how to dance,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
it's bringing two people together who just have to work at something that, like, potentially they haven't ever done before. So
yeah.
they're both learning together, and just how they interact in that moment. I think it's just, I loved, like, when I
Did you
read
see
that,
a
I thought,
video?
oh, I think that's absolutely brilliant. I haven't seen the video. I'll have to check it
Oh,
out, but
I'll have to,
I loved
I'll
it.
send you a link. The one that I love the most, which really shows why I love doing it. And again, this is so random. It's come from me teaching dancing and people coming to me
Mm,
saying, hey, you teach dancing. Can you teach us a wedding dance? I'm like, well, maybe, sure. Give it a go. Let's see what
yeah,
happens. You know, there's no, the idea around having qualifications is completely chucked out the window,
mm,
because I know that people are drawn to the energy that I bring to the space rather than what qualifications I have on paper. And
yeah.
with some really good friends of mine were getting married, and she wanted to do this more than he did, which is a typical story, right? Guys
Mm,
don't want to be kind of highlighted and to feel embarrassed or ashamed in a very intimate space. They don't want to look like they're doing something wrong. So for me to
yeah.
be able to break down those barriers and soften into the conversation and be like, come in for like half an hour, let's just have a play. If you like it, we'll keep going. If you don't, that's all right, no worries. And within the first half an hour, the guys are the ones who are wanting to do more. They're completely relaxed and having such a good time, and that they end up wanting to book more rehearsals leading up to the wedding. So it's just like, it's so rewarding in that case, you know, and that's
Yeah,
not something that's going to come when I'm dancing on a podium at 2 a.m. at a Crown Casino. So there's a very big difference in, you know, having a
yeah,
dancing career. There's a lot of avenues that we can go down to if we open our mind. And I think that's what I really want to share with anyone who's looking at taking the road into the creative arts and dancing, especially, you know, not to pigeonhole themselves to think that
yeah,
they have to just be a dancer to really make it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There seems to be quite a few different things, like like, obviously there's the performance side of it, but there's also the choreography,
Yeah.
and like just being able to provide that opportunity for couples to be able to learn a dance for their wedding,
Yeah.
which is obviously a very traditional part of a whole wedding process.
Yeah.
There's just, I think it comes down to just being open-minded to opportunity, doesn't it?
Mm.
It's like, if you're closed-minded and you think that there's only one way, which is obviously like or two ways, performing or going into a studio, and
Yeah.
like there's so many different versions of that.
Yeah, and
I
it's only
think
the
that,
belief around it too. Like,
yeah,
it depends on what the young person has in their mind about what they see their career to look like. And if there are any
yeah,
limiting beliefs around that, right? The whole idea of, for me, especially growing up though, it was kind of a core wound for me as a dancer since doing breath work and doing some more emotional healing. And all of that I bring back into my business now and teach a lot of other face
yeah,
painters and dancers and students within dancing, that the triple threat is how you have to make it in the industry. You know,
mm,
you have to sing, dance, and act if you really want to make it. And I
yeah,
had believed that, but I didn't want to sing. So I had constantly been like setting myself up to think that I'd never be good enough to make it in the
yeah,
industry. But at the same time, I had spent the rest of my career going down different creative avenues like children's entertainment and face painting, because I was naturally very
mm,
creative in art at school. And you know, I made my own twisted version of a triple threat, and it turned out that I expanded in my skills and I've got more than 3 really good skills that I can use on a very regular
yeah,
basis. So I think the beliefs around what it, or the idea of what it looks like to be a professional performer, it's up to the person. You know, we
Yeah.
need more authenticity in the industry. And I think
Yeah.
every young person aspiring to go into the arts, if they bring their authenticity with them and they remember that part of them, our industry will benefit, rather than we all, you know, color our hair a certain color to what's in the trend. I used to go to the solarium to try and get as much of a tan as I possibly could, get your nails done, look a certain way, talk a certain way, act a certain way,
Yeah.
certain size, shape, you know, all of these things that pigeonhole us into a particular style of dancer that needed to be, you know, the way we looked to get the job. We don't have to do it like that. And that's what I'm very passionate about, to make sure anyone who comes through the arts, they can bring themselves and take care of themselves and also be very successful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's so much truth in that, because you don't want to be a cookie cutter version of
No,
everybody else,
no,
because then those roles, the cookies are already there. You've got
they're
to
there. Yeah,
be who you are,
yeah,
because then you stand out. And I think that one of the things that you have allowed yourself to do, which has now sort of given you the ability to arrive where you are, was that you've gone on a journey. You've gone on like this exploration, but what you've done is you've followed the pathway of the things that you genuinely enjoy doing,
totally.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing, is like, for some of them, when they've been at high school, their life experiences are quite limited. And I think that they just have to allow themselves this opportunity to explore,
Yeah,
to
they don't have
just
to have
to
it figured out.
yeah. And to also, like, my belief is that, so I'm very passionate about helping people find their true north,
Yeah.
because then your true north could be, it's going to be different for everybody. And for some things, for some people, it will be multiple things.
Yeah.
But the gauge is on that energetic sort of level, is that when you're up in that joy space, when you're feeling joy, that's your internal guidance to say
Totally.
you're on track.
Yeah.
And so if you're in that space where you're comparing yourself to other people, or you're thinking that they're like, wherever you are, you know, like, if you're doing something and it's not resonating with you, and you're feeling sort of disappointed, or any of those negative emotions, that's your internal guidance system telling you that you're off track. And so then you've just got to be really conscious of how things make you feel, because that internal feeling is the guide of when you're on track and when you're off track. And so, but you have to allow yourself, when you put worry into it about finding that one thing, you're off track.
Fear is taking the control. Yeah.
You've got to just allow that opportunity for exploration and have fun along the way.
Absolutely. I've had so much fun. Look, I've definitely learned some lessons around burning the candle at both ends. That's been one huge thing for me, because I love everything so much that slowing down was a real challenge for me. And only in the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I've learned to slow down and be okay with it, just. And that comes from, as well, like the dance world, where we have the fear put into us. Well, I believe it for myself. I'll speak for myself. And I do know from friends talking to how much they agree. There's no chance to take time off, because you are easily replaced, you are easily forgotten. There's this idea that there are so many trying to make the same thing happen, that there's that level of anxiousness and unease in pursuing this pathway, because it's very competitive. Your good friends are also your competition. And I think, for me, looking back at my career, if I could have my older me talk to my younger me and sort of support that, and know that, you know, regardless of the competition, look after yourself first, regardless of what gigs you miss out on or auditions you don't get to. You'll look after yourself first, because, you know, we've only got this body for the rest of our lives. And I tell this to my students all the time, you know, prevention of injury, rather than don't wait till you get so sick or so injured that you start to pay attention to your body. So I think what I'm really passionate about with sharing my story with younger people coming up through high school and wanting to take the arts, or dancing specifically, as a career, is to learn how to, like you said, talk about finding that true north and that state of joy and that state of fun, no matter what they do. And that's typically probably connected to how much they are working and how much they're resting, and the balance of their social life and time with family. I missed out on so many birthdays and weddings, and I think maybe a funeral or two, because I chose and I prioritized dancing It was the thing, you know, I had to do it, all of it. And I think the biggest thing around that too is resetting the belief that the level or the amount of work that we do doesn't have to mean how successful we are. It doesn't have to justify, you know, if we do 100% all the time, that means we're 100% successful. We need to come back again and just reset and go, actually, if I'm happy and I'm healthy from like a core perspective, and then work out from there, the level of success would be more true. And of course, the level of happiness would be relative as well. So it's nothing that I learned at the beginning. It was all go, go, go. Very different to how I look at everything now. So I definitely want to share that with the younger generations coming through. Big stuff with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's very much about, so I think your emotions are telling you when you're on track and when you're off track, and your body is talking to you all the time.
Always,
I think your body is always trying to give you feedback on what you need to do, whether you need to rest and digest or whether you should be in action. And I think that it's just one of the things that is concerning me is just that we live in a time that is very, everything is extremely fast. Everything is fast paced, and we're not taught to just sit and create space. And then when we do that, we actually feel, well, we can tune in to what's the right thing for us to do, when to do it. And I think that just being, I mean, sometimes for me, I know that I've had to wait a really long time to learn that. And I wish I'd learned it earlier, because I think it would have saved me so much angst. And I think that I see people around me who are unwell, and I think that their bodies are actually talking to them for a really long time.
Oh yeah, and they just were numbed out to it.
Yeah, and so I think that and there's an interesting part too, because obviously with dance and Pilates and fitness, there's so much that helps you to actually reset your energy. And so there's like, obviously when you're doing it professionally, it's different. But just I had a friend whose daughter, she was saying that she just, sometimes she can hear the music upstairs and her daughter's spontaneously having a dance. And I said, well, you can't be unhappy when you're having a dance in your room.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think I fell in love with dancing before I knew I was in love with dancing. I think a lot of my family saw that I loved it before I was able to consciously realize I did love it. And I started dancing when I was 4, and my grandparents actually paid for the first term or semester of my dance tuition because my parents couldn't afford it at the time. And when they obviously saw me do it and love it and be really good at it, they're like, well, we can't stop doing it now. We have to figure out how to make this work. So, yeah, I think children from a very young age, they know what lights them up. You know, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be dancing like how we're talking. But.
And did you find, like, what was it like? Had you been somewhere and you asked that you wanted to do a dancing lesson, or like how did you know, or like how did that come about, being that little? Like, was it circumstance?
Childhood memories of mine are very vivid. I've got lots of them. I'm very grateful. I've got plenty of childhood memories. I do remember always dancing at family gatherings when the music was on and, you know, all the grown-ups had a couple beers or a couple glasses of wine. I remember maybe even having my pajamas on before the kids had to go to bed, and everyone else had the music on and having a boogie in the lounge room. And I always just remember my nana pa almost like overly acknowledging how much I look like I love it or how much I'm good at it. And it would bring them joy seeing me dance. So, you know, for a child, as young children, we are all figuring out ourselves based on the reactions we're getting from the outside world and the approval from older people and whoever else we see as role models. I think the big part there was, for me, is like, people are happy when I do this. It makes me happy, making others happy. So there's so many tangled and interconnected reasons why I love it. And I do think family was a big point for me. We always had music in our family growing up, and that definitely would be setting the scene for me deciding to dance and pursue it. And they're also accepting and, you know, supportive of that. My grandparents and my family and my cousins would be at every show, every concert, every competition. It was all dance. Everything was dancing. And what was that you were going to say?
just there's so much support there.
Oh,
Like it
yeah.
was, you were kind of, you know, just you were allowed to pursue that because you were supported in the pursuit of that. So
Yeah. And look, I tried gymnastics for a year. It felt really rigid. I wasn't allowed to move as freely. Gave that the ass real quick. It was, I actually remember it so clearly. I think maybe that was when mum and dad were like, maybe she just does dancing because that's all she's really tried. Maybe we should try something else just in case, just to compare. And look, it didn't last long. I just love dancing, and I love my teacher. And, you know, just every Saturday from 9 till about 5 or 6 when I got older was my dancing day on the weekend, and
yeah.
maybe a couple nights a week too. So it was a big commitment for a very long time growing up, and then through high school as well. Like, I knew I wanted to do it. It lit me up completely. So, yeah.
But it's indicative though, isn't it? Like, I think that's one of the, when I'm working with students,
Yeah.
wherever they're spending their free time, like where they spend their like extended amounts of time without having to be incentivized or, you know, like sort of directed at it, is a very good indication of where their natural interests and passions sit.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that's a massive clue to which, you know, where their interests lie. So,
and to nurture that is amazing too. It's such a gift. I'm so grateful I've had the opportunity to pursue my passions, and it's like one of the most expensive things you can put your children through. And I, you know, I stuck to it, and I wanted to do more. So thanks, mum and dad. But, you know,
and your grandparents.
And grandparents, definitely. Yeah, I'm very grateful. Very, very grateful. Yeah. Yeah. How else can
how did you pick?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I was going to ask you. So, obviously, that golden thread of dance just was all the way through, and then you went into through high school. So then there's so many of them going through this point where they then have to make this decision. Like, they're in this group of, you know, they're with their peers, and everyone's making these big life decisions on which course to take. So at that moment, like, how did you choose what course you went into? Like, what was, like, how did you decide to move forward with it? Like, what was the process?
We, in year 10, I had work experience, and I instantly wanted to go straight to Melbourne because that's where a lot of the big dance studios were and still are. I know Geelong and the Surf Coast are definitely getting a better name for themselves and opportunities coming through down to the coast. But I knew that I wanted to go to the Space Dance and Arts Centre. This was the one on Chapel Street. It's been there forever. That's huge. There's dance classes all day, all night. I was like, that was my dream. If I could go to work and dance, this would be amazing. So I actually set that up. I got to do some admin, a bit of data entry for work experience, and I got to do as many dance classes as I wanted, which was amazing. Wow. That was my work experience, which was like, you know, seal the deal. I'm like, this is what I want. I don't have to open my textbooks. I don't have to do all this work, because I was really good at my English and creative writing, and I have definitely an analytical mind, but anything with science and math related kind of work just wasn't what lit me up. It was a real challenge for me. So I knew what I liked and I knew what I was good at. And, you know, my dad would take me on the train ride as like a test run before I went and did the week of work experience. So my parents really supported the idea of commuting to Melbourne on my own, and doing that full week of work experience, you know, traveling on the train there and back every day. And yeah, it was just a really great eye-opening experience to see lots of other dancers and other people that were like me. Because for me in high school, we didn't have a lot of dancing opportunities. There was a lot more drama or theatre, which at the time I was just like, I want to dance. I was really focused. And I actually went to do VCE dance at Geelong High and vet dance at Sacred Heart College was VCE dance, and vet dance was at Geelong High. So I actually went to two different high schools that my high school supported, and we would go to a different school that had the subject running. So I had to try and make it work. I knew that that's what I wanted to pursue, and I'm very grateful that that was available to me. Otherwise, I think I may not have finished year 12 and 11, but I, you know, wanted to see it through, and I think those subjects were great to support me on that. You know, and knowing that I could complete VCE and, you know, tick it off the list, even though I did want to go and dance full time much earlier, I am glad I did complete it. and then pursuing which place I wanted to train at, I had experience through my dance studio going to different factories and studios in Melbourne for exams and workshops and guest teachers. So I had already had a bit of an idea of where I wanted to go. Coincidentally, when I was in VCE, Jason Coleman was one of the judges on So You Think You Can Dance for the Australian series. So I was glued to the TV, and that was like, this is Jason Coleman. He's starting a studio. I've got to go there. And if anything, I was swept up in my excitement. And I didn't even research all that much more about the other full-time courses, because I was just like, he's a cool dude. He's on TV. I want to go to his course. So I was kind of like probably a little bit, no, actually I did the research. Mum and Dad wouldn't have let me not do the research, but it was just really an easy decision. We went and did workshops with Jason Coleman's studio when it was being built. We auditioned, I got in, it was great, and then that was it. 5 days a week, go time. It was huge, you know. Wow. And it was, I think my first day of full-time was my 18th birthday. Like it was, I'm a young person in each age group. I think I started school a little bit earlier. So yeah, it was a very exciting time. I knew what I wanted. I did the research. I loved that it was more performing arts based. It wasn't just musical theatre, which was really important to me at the time. And I didn't have a particular idea of where dancing was going to take me. It was just, I want to dance and let's see where this goes. Yeah, because if it would have been musical theatre, I may have gone to more of an appropriate studio or course that would nurture that. But being able to do jazz, tap, lyrical, contemporary, a little bit of musical theatre was great. But, you know, just the corporate commercial world was what I was specifically interested in at the time. So it definitely ticked the boxes for me going there.
Yeah, it sounds like there was definitely, there's a lot of intuitive guidance coming along, like in most of your choices, you were kind of very strongly following your intuition. And
yes,
I think that
definitely.
I have to say, I love the fact that your dad made you do a test run on how you were going to go to work experience. That's
he's so supportive. He's like, my dad went to the Air Force when he was so young, I think 15 or 16, and he's got, like, in that case, very masculine quality energy about him, but he's also a super sensitive, like a HSP. So we can lock horns when we're growing up, but I also really value his organizational skills, you know, to like do a practice run before, so you don't turn up to work late on the first day, you know.
Yeah, you've done a dry run.
Yeah, totally. And it's like so perfect for me as a dancer, because we always do a rehearsal before the show. So
I think too, one of the things that seems like, it's obvious that you had a very supportive family.
Yeah.
But I suppose there's two parts to that, because it's obviously also clear that your passion was so strong that you were going to follow through on everything. Like it wasn't sort of, I'm not sure. Like it was just, there was so much drive behind it.
Yeah.
I think when you demonstrate that level of drive, you can really, it really helps people get behind you as well, because
definitely.
they just, like, when you're sort of unsure about something, the momentum doesn't sort of have that ripple effect to everybody around you. So it's kind of like a thing that works together, doesn't it?
Definitely. If anything, the only uncertainty or lacking direction I would come across was almost like a bit of a pattern, which we all kind of go through, because I know not many people stay in the same career their whole life. They can change their mind, right? So for me, I remember having the financial struggles being a big point. It was like, okay, well, am I going to work, earn and save enough to move out of mum and dad's house? I was young, and look, the whole idea of saving was definitely not my strong point. I was easily a spender, because everything could be looked or seen as like a work expense. So go shopping, get some nice clothes for the audition. And the idea around setting a budget as a sole trader, I would like to go back and chat to myself and say, hey, pull your head in, let's do it like this. But again, it's all experience. So the times for me that I had doubt in running myself through a dance career was the financial setbacks. And so from time to time, I still wouldn't stop dancing. I'd still be teaching nearly every night of the week, every weekend, kids' parties, entertaining, doing gigs, grabbing everything that I can where I can, which is probably why I had lived on such an anxious type experience. But again, the love was there. So anxiousness and love together, it kind of we do a tango the whole way through. And I did a cafe job for a couple of weeks. I couldn't do it. I'd look for other jobs. It just, I couldn't justify. If anything, the story I had was the energy I have to give. I can't put this on a coffee table. I can't do what I'm supposed to do, putting food on a table. This doesn't feel right. So the feeling definitely intuitively has been my driving force the whole way through this. Even when it had been really challenging, I'd still come back and do dancing or something around the industry, because a normal job for me is just not going to happen. If anything, Pilates for me is the closest thing to a normal job I've ever had that has lasted more than a couple months outside my own creative endeavors. And it works so well. It's taught me more about my body. It's helped me help my students. It helps me help my family, which is great. And it complements the career too. So I really do think that following my instinct and my gut the whole way through has helped a big, big deal. Huge.
Yeah. It's that concept of always knowing to sit in that place of what brings you joy. And even if however you can stay on track with that, that's always that's the best choice, isn't it?
Joy is the one I'm writing, and what I'm doing changes is a really nice way to look at it. So for people who are getting stuck with the idea of they have to choose just one thing, that doesn't fit, right? It doesn't matter. You kind of chucked it in the bin. Don't worry about it. Because if you're following what lights you up the whole way, you'll be much more happier. And if you're happier, your physical system is so much more healthy, unless there's that feeling of guilt or shame, and then the emotional components, which we can work through. And I think a lot of the time, follow your love, follow your joy, and also get the emotional support too, because it's not the easiest one to follow all the time, because so many people are telling you get off the joy bucket or get off the joy train and do the smart thing, do the wise thing, do the thing that's going to set you up. But what if you've got that regular job that doesn't light you up, and it gets you the money in the bank account, and you buy the house and you have the family, and then you're 60 and you go, what have I done? What have I done? So I think there's an opportunity to educate young people to follow their joy, still make some smart decisions and get the support, and also know that it's okay to change their mind and to do it differently. I think do it differently is really, really important too. They don't have to just fit inside the square. Huge thing.
I totally agree, because I think what happens is that they're once they've gone through school, it's very systemized, and then there's a whole series of very set systems that are available to them after they leave school. There's kind of a number of different options. And what happens is that ability to sort of stand back and say, who am I? What do I stand for? Who do I wish to become? Isn't even put into the equation. It's you just get to this point, you've got to make a decision. For most of them, they've got to go into quite substantial debt. And then, the hope that they'll get a job at the end of it. And instead of sort of standing back and going, I'm going to do life on my terms, I'm going to be true to myself, I'm going to do what lights me up. And I think one of the things that you can do to achieve that is to look for people who are exemplars, people who are doing the sorts of things that you want to do. And then just because I think that you just have to be open-minded to try and find those people, because they're out there, and then you work out what they've done, and then you can start to do something similar. But it's just having that openness to say, I'm actually going to do it my way. I'm going to live my life on my terms. I'm going to do what makes me happy. And because when you're happy and you're following your true north, the energy that comes from you is substantially different to when you're a passenger in life, and you're doing what everyone else tells you should do, and you're switching off from all the things that light you up. And so just having that ability to just pause and say, no, I'm actually going to do it I'm going to do it in a way that works for me. I'm going to be authentic to myself. And I'm sure that there are other people out there who have gone off the track and done it in a way that works, but it's not standard, and it's not, you know, what is, you know, what they're sort of the options that are made available to them.
Yeah, definitely. Look, for me in VCE, I really did put a lot of effort into doing well. I knew that I wasn't going to need my my score at the end of year 12 because I had no interest in going to university. It was just like, that was out of my mind a long time ago, but there was still the want to do well, because you know, it defines us. We're completely identified as a school student in high school, and everything else is just a blur in the distance. And I even remember coming out of some of my English exams and I got a meltdown. I broke down into tears because I knew that I didn't quite write something the way I would have when I was studying, and there's so much pressure to do well that if they can just give themselves a little bit of breathing space after that and just go, okay, well, I've done everything that I can do. I've done my best, even if it wasn't the best I thought I could do, because the expectation is always higher. Just to sit back in that and just check in with themselves and really, really feel what they want to do next. And they don't have to know if it's the right decision, because at least going on that good feeling first will lead them on the right path. And knowing, again, like I said before, you can change your mind, you can adjust, you can tweak. You don't have to stick to the thing that you started with, because I haven't. Look, like I said, the feeling of fun and joy has been huge for me. And I'm 29 now and I'm still doing what I want.
Perfect.
A little bit rebellious energy in my body, because I always kind of played up a bit at school, just because the rules and being told what to do and dress a certain way. I was that free-spirited child that would put the weirdest, most wackiest clothing outfits on when I was younger. And that, for me, like, I just don't want to follow someone else's rules. That, for me, was a big highlight. I just wanted to be my own boss from the beginning. Every single entertainment company or events that I had worked on, not as a leader, I'm like, this is good, but I'd do it like this and that. I'd do it like this, but I really do care about how this person feels rather than what they're getting. There's all these things for me that really connected to the experience and the feeling that people get from the service, which is why I pursued taking on this whole crazy idea of building Jacq of all trades and the wide platform that I can reach everyone from, because I get to be my own boss. I get to coach crew and entertainers to join me so that they can do it from a heart intelligence space, rather than do it for the gig, do it for the opportunity, do it for the CV. You know, it's like, especially for me as a young woman, I'm teaching other young women and entertainers to include menstrual cycle awareness into their schedule and into their lifestyle, where, you know, if you have period pain, take the week off. Don't push yourself to the point where you're burning out because you didn't give yourself rest, like I did when I was younger. You know, don't over medicate just to numb yourself out. Take time for yourself. You need this.
It just comes back to listen to your body, doesn't it?
Totally. And I'm getting such a great response from my team now, because I'm showing up and I'm being vulnerable with my experiences as a human being first. And then they connect with me on that, so that when they show up for work, they're like 110% on my side. We're together as a team. And that's completely different to how I felt growing up in other people's entertainment companies and groups, because it felt really fake. It felt like everyone was having this image of what a dancer's life had to look like. But underneath, I could, because I'm such an empath, I'm such a feely person, I could feel when someone wasn't being true to me. I could feel when it didn't feel right. And, you know, dancing has that idea of the wow and the glamorous lifestyle. But beneath the costumes, backstage, you know, when all of that's off, we're all human beings first. And that's what I am really passionate about sharing with the next generation and anyone else in the entertainment industry that needs to reset themselves emotionally, so that they can actually enjoy what they do in their passion, rather than feel like they're a complete slave to what they're doing. And they don't have to slog it out the whole time. They don't have to suffer if they listen to their bodies and take their time to really find that balance. It's a big thing for me now, and I love sharing that.
Yeah. And one of the things I think, I think you're kind of getting to in what you've just said is, and just tell me if I'm off base, but
go for it. Yeah.
Just when you're dancing, like when when you're in that moment, just really engaging with what you're doing and what you're bringing to the people who are there, like that you're performing to, like just being really present and being, it's not, as you say, about you putting something on your resume. It's actually about connecting with an audience. It's having that expression and for them to have an emotional response to that. That's at the core of what dance is.
Yeah, that's so big. For me, for a really big example, I have to shout out to my really good friend, Michelle. She's one of my closest dancing friends. And back in the day, when I came across her company name is Crazy Bar, Crazy with a K. And she's a high energy, interactive entertainer group. And there's barely any rehearsal. We all dance intuitively. We follow, we lead. It's like a group fitness thing, but for a big event, big birthdays, big parties. It's a big Jewish community, so they've got lots of big celebrations all year round. And for me, when I first met her, I was like, this isn't really a gig. You know, there's no stage, there's no rehearsal, there's none of these other things that I would imagine a real dancing gig to look like. But for me, these gigs at Crazy Bar were the things that I had the most fun doing, because the crew, we all danced together, we had fun. The people we engaged with appreciated us. They valued our energy on the dance floor. Whereas for me, comparing that to, say, dancing on a podium, 15 minutes on and off for a couple hours when everyone else is at bed at home in bed, that for me, after a while, it was like, why am I doing this? Because everyone that is in front of me is drunk, not aware, they're not connecting, right? They were just like, we look beautiful, we look great, but it doesn't fulfill me. So I went through with this journey of really finding what I could connect with. And there were some shows at Copacabana. I've been dancing there for a good few years, doing Latin floor shows. They've just closed this year, which is really sad because of the pandemic, I think. There were nights where every table was full, all around from front to side. It was like it's a dinner setting, so everyone comes in for meals and drinks, and it's interactive dancing on stage, and we do a show. But there are other nights, like in winter on a Friday, there's like 5 tables, and we still do the show. And for me, a few wake up moments or light bulb moments for me there was like, I'm tired. This doesn't feel as good when it's not a full audience, because we're giving so much, and there may be a girlfriend sitting on her phone in the dining area, or someone else will be looking at the football on the TV in the corner, or, you know, it's like, hang on, I'm giving all of me and you guys are giving me nothing back. So there was moments for me across my career I've had to fine tune where I put my energy in dancing, because it is a very generous lifestyle. We are always giving in a teaching environment, in a performing environment. When we're auditioning, we're always laying ourselves out there. And if anything now, because I'm still performing, I'll never stop dancing, but I'm very particular with who I dance with and how often. And it's working for me now, which is really, really good. It means I'm not dancing every weekend, but when I do, it's a good choice. It feels good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I suppose the other question too, like in terms of, like you sort of mentioned it earlier about sort of the financial aspects of going into dance. Like in terms of the avenues, or just like setting yourself up for a career in dance, what would your advice be in relation to just the best way to, you know, create an income that's reliable and can build on?
Great question. It's exciting to know that some gigs pay really well, and the idea of having a budget would be really smart. And of course, for me, my belief or my excuse back in the day was I can't budget because every week is different. And if I could go back and look at that again, I would like to think that I could go on the bare minimum, what I would expect I could earn each week as my budget, and anything on top is a bonus, which I kind of started to do towards the later part of my career, because it is so inconsistent. If you're not a dance teacher, if you're just a performer, it's very different. And I think dance teaching, if you get a really good studio and you're a great teacher, your pays can be really good. I think I was earning more than I ever was when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, but I was spending it too. I wasn't saving it. and the idea of putting away money for tax, you know, collecting all your receipts, writing down your expenses, putting 10-20% of each invoice pay away for your tax so that when you do it, you have something there. I think it's important to get that financial advice from an accountant from the beginning if you're an artist, because the way we can claim on expenses is different to how other people would go if they're on the books in a different job. And, you know, the logbook for a car, or keeping your train ticket receipts, just everything that typically 100% of what we do as a dancer is an expense. We're only ever going somewhere for dancing. That's what it was for me. So just saving all the receipts and setting a budget and trusting in it, I think would be really, really good. And of course, within that budget, knowing that there is some playtime to, you know, go out to the movies or go out to dinner with friends or Christmas shopping, instead of it being so stressful. If the budget is there, then you'll be okay throughout the whole year, rather than doing the whole struggling, starving artist paycheck week to week. It's so stressful doing it that way. It's like we've got a choice. You can live the dream and still financially be able to support yourself. And if you can't, get a normal job and be okay with that, so that you can feel less stress financially and enjoy what you originally did because you loved it. I think that's a big game changer for anyone in the arts. My partner and I, we talk about this all the time. He's a muso, plays guitar, has for his whole life. And the belief around it is now is like, you won't ever just be able to be an artist, because there's so many of us out there. There's not enough venues. There's not that many performing opportunities where we could really thrive financially consistently. So being okay with getting another job or having different skills to nurture what you're doing. So for me, it wasn't cafe work. It wasn't working at a regular shop in the area. It was, you know, children's entertainment, face painting, other things that I could fit within my dance career. And that would make a big difference, you know, and letting go of the idea that you're not really a performer if you've got a regular job on the side. If they can, if anyone else coming through the industry now can put that belief in the bin, forget about it, and just go, this is what I'm going to do because I can financially support myself and enjoy my passion, which I get paid to do. I think there's a really healthy balance in that. I think the mindset is really important, to be okay having another job to support myself, not I've got this job to fall back on. That mindset is huge, because a lot of the time I've known so many dancing friends who would be resistant to getting a regular job because it meant that they would no longer be defined as a professional dancer. You know, there's a whole idea of, if you haven't got a regular job, you're a dancer. You've made it. You know, you can survive just on dancing, which, you know, it might look good to the outside world, but, you know, they might be having 2-minute noodles for dinner every night of the week. You don't know what's going on at home. Big time budget.
So much tied up in identity. Tied up in identity.
Huge. And I love sharing and unpacking all of that with everyone now that I've come out the other end of it, and I can see it with a much more of a conscious mind, as opposed to being completely unconscious about the identification of living as a dancer is huge.
So I suppose, from what you're saying, it's really important to set your systems up right from the beginning and understand what all of your costs are, so that then you're conscious of what your income needs to be, and also how all the systems within that work in terms of the tax and everything else,
because you're still a business, right?
Absolutely. And then having a and then just being able to find which pathway to follow, whether it be like a pure stream of just dance, if that is available, or if it's not, putting in some other elements so that it's all viable, or whether you rebalance for a little while and go into another sort of job whilst you have that other component of your dance on the side till you work out a way for that to work.
And it totally varies for everyone. Everyone's different, and it will change from year to year depending on how busy you are as a performer. There might be times where you can't fit in a regular job, which is awesome. Take it on while it's there, but also be open to having something there as not like backup, as I said, but as something that will make the budget work, so you're not struggling financially. Because I missed out on fully enjoying some of the performances and the gigs because I was in this gotta go, rush, take every opportunity to make it all work. But even still, I was taking more opportunities for experience rather than finance too. So I was driving all over town, all over the shop at the beginning to take every opportunity that I could, forgetting that the car that I'm driving, that's an expense. And sometimes I may have actually taken opportunities that I was losing money doing because I didn't think about how much they were paying me, the cost of my fuel, the cost of my time to get ready, to come home, all of these things that I naturally just put to the side because I loved the idea so much. So I think the idea around, when we get over emotional or over excited, we can at times forget how to center ourselves and be really calm. And, when we love what we do, that's a very easy thing to get swept up in. But to be in a state of real calm and like a heart quality is in peace and in joy rather than excitement and fear, it's really important that that space is where we come from to make decisions, to say yes to opportunities, to budget, to take the next job, or to say no to that opportunity because financially it's not going to work, even if that means you might burn that bridge with that company because they're not going to give you another job, because they're not going to offer you another job because you said no. There's all these little politics around dancing that instill fear in people saying no to gigs. But at the end of the day, if we can give insight to valuing dancers themselves so that they value their finance, they value their rest, they value their health, physio, massage, they're important when you're using your body as your tool, right?
Yeah.
Across the whole board. Me first, dance next. And I think that switch for me happened only in the last few years, whereas in the past it was dance first 99.9% of the time, and that little smidgy bit was left for me to look after myself financially, physically, emotionally, recharge time. And that wore me out and wasn't aware of it because I loved it. I was excited by it. So to bring it in, me first, dance next. And if dancers or young artists can remember that for themselves, they will have a lot more of a happier, more successful career in the arts with a lot more balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that that's very, very sound advice. And I think too the other factor is being really conscious of whether you're the sort of person who is, I think, entrepreneurial and want a business, or whether you sit more comfortably working with someone else. Do you know what I mean? Rather than running your own business, because like not everybody has that drive or feel or that comfort level around creating their own business. But so there are multiple sort of pathways to choose from. It's just knowing what you feel comfortable with and what's right for you. So did you have, when you were younger, did you show entrepreneurial, like did you have little businesses going, or were you sort of demonstrating that as you were growing up?
Look, I always wanted to do it my way. It was I was very creatively committed to everything, and the idea of being told what to do in like a real positive way is like a real light bulb moment for me, because I always had ideas that I wanted to do. So that would be like, well, hang on a second, maybe I would be owning my own business and having that entrepreneurial mindset. Trying to think of other things. Well, when I grew up dancing, I was always my dance teacher's helper. I went to dancing much earlier and helped all the younger kids when I was still a child. I think I started assisted teaching when I was maybe only like 10-ish.
Right.
So I was teaching while I was still a student. So I have always been in a leadership role, really close to other people who were the owners of the business or big choreographers. And that probably has a big thing to do with how I fell into teaching dance while wanting to be a performer, as opposed to looking at teaching dance as a way to fall back on the performing career. It was just like, okay, well, this works and this works, let's take that together. And, running around all parts of Melbourne, from Torquay to Bacchus Marsh to Gisborne, like down over across the eastern side of Melbourne, I was traveling everywhere to teach at other people's studios. And at some point I was like, I'm really tired. Like, I don't know if I can keep doing this for everybody else. There was a part of me that was like, okay, well, how can I do this for me, to look after me and still do what I love? And I never wanted to own my own dance studio, because for me, still wanting to travel and see the world as well, I didn't want to be locked into a dance studio. I felt really tied down. So for me, performing and creating my business with multiple skills was what worked for me. It wasn't necessarily a huge light bulb moment for me that I'm going to be an entrepreneur or I've got that energy about me. But I just knew that from the beginning I've always been a little different. And my weirdness and my wackiness is probably what got me to where I am now. And I can look at other entrepreneurs and guest speakers and personal development coaches and people who've kind of got that platform where they can be a leader for so many people. And they've all got a funny story too. Like, we've all got this thing that started when we were a child that got us to where we are now. And we're at this place where we can share this story with others so that they can improve and support themselves in their lives. So I think with all of that together, there was never one specific moment where I knew I was going to be in this position that I am now. I've just been riding this constant wave of following my heart, really, the whole way through. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. And that's what I think, that's such a good message to teach kids that are, you know, students that are coming through, just to be guided by what feels right and what feels good.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
And find people who are doing the sorts of things that you would like to do, whatever it be. And it can be, you know, for some they love science and maths, and for some that, you know, they're highly creative, and there's lots of different streams in the creative sphere as well.
There's so many. Like, people can be like in light design or costume design, and there's just so much, which is really cool, right? Everyone can do anything.
It's fantastic, and there are so many pathways, but it also can be a bit daunting. But that's why it's so important to explore, just to get out and try those different things. But it's fantastic.
Even for, if anyone's still dancing at their dance studio, where they get the opportunity to help backstage for production time, where they can actually see how much planning goes into creating a production from the back end. And if that lights them up, you know, organizing the set of the show, the costumes, where the kids go in the backstage area, who's going to run the kids to the stage and back, who's going to be calling the show with the comms on, talking to the person in the lighting. There's all these kind of other areas of the industry that someone might really enjoy being having that as part of their career when they're not performing. And I love backstage. This is like, look, I love dancing on stage, I love performing, that always lights me up, but there's something really special about holding the space and nurturing those who are coming through and figuring out that they love it too, so that they can be calm and present and enjoy the experience, rather than getting swept up in the fear and the drama, which unfortunately a lot of dance studios get swept up in, you know, the crazy dance mums who are living through their children to make it. It's a really good story. And
seen that show.
There's Dance Mums, the American show. I remember watching that and being sucked into it, because it's just so full of drama. But it broke my heart, right? There's just so much greatness in the performing arts industry, but there's so many wounds and so many beliefs that I think would do us good letting them go. And because I'm still here and still really loving the industry for what it has given me, I still want to give back so I can share with the next generation the things that they don't need to hold on to in the industry, where they can kind of find their own groove in the industry and let all that other crap go, because it no longer serves us as human beings, as dancers. The unhealthy lifestyle that can come with it, or the healthy lifestyle that could come with it. There's so much. I could talk to you about this for hours.
No, I've loved talking to you. It's been fantastic. Very inspiring. I think that it's just I love how you have this range of all these different creative ways of connecting with people, and to also to light your own joy. I think that it's really inspiring. So I'm really glad that I got to talk to you, and I think that there'll be lots of creative dancers and even people who are just want to express themselves creatively will be encouraged by listening to the journey that you've taken and just listening to your intuition and really just letting your intuition and your heart guide you in the direction that you needed to go in, for even when things weren't right for you, and being able to acknowledge that and then to sort of shift gear and get back on track in the right direction. So I love talking to you. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much. This was kind of like our pre-interview, but we've kind of unpacked quite a few things that would be worthy of sharing and putting out there. So I'm glad I pressed record on the Zoom.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad it didn't crash.
Fingers crossed. Stays like that. That's good. I still have time to chat if you wanted to go over anything else.
I don't know. I have my list of questions. I think one of the questions, and you've sort of covered it off, was just the fact that, so obviously there's dancing for the sake that it brings you joy, but then you talked about being in those environments where there's a crowd of 5 and they're on their phone, or versus being a full venue, and just that really, like, you're giving and you're also like, and they're participating in that energy. But like with the other things that you do in terms of the Pilates sort of work, and also like the teaching, you know, with the dance for like your pre-wedding and things like that, those sorts of things where you're directly connecting with other people and helping them, and I like the wellness and that sort of total picture of that, of bringing those creative things into helping other people. What's the connection for you in, like, what is it that you get or you enjoy in providing that to other people? Like what is it that draws you to that?
Great question. Without putting it into words, it's a feeling. There's not something that like, it's not the easiest path to take compared to what other people may have taken to just have a job where it's financially stable. But I think in currency of energy, you know, instead of financial currency, there has been that feeling that has guided me the whole way through, which is why I do it. And if anything, now realizing where my energy goes, which is why I'm being really careful and specific with who and where and how and what I use with my energy. I think I had almost abused myself emotionally, energetically through my dance career because I wanted to say yes to so many opportunities. And I think when I finally started to really wake up and have those, it's almost like a enlightenment moment or a bird's eye view moment where when I was performing, I'd see myself dancing on stage. It was like such a profound moment for me, where I've gone, it's not actually dancing that makes me happy. And for me, that completely deconstructed the dancer identification in a second. It's not dancing that makes me happy. I'm actually like traveling in the feeling of joy, because I'm in joy when there's a big crowd and I'm dancing, but I'm not in joy when I'm dancing and there's a small crowd. So there's these particular aspects that are critical to what I feel. And when I realized that it's not just about dancing, it's about everything that I do, that's where everything shifted for me. So it's really hard to answer your question in words, because it's just, it's a feeling thing.
I think you have. I think it sounds to me like a positive energy exchange. Yeah. In that when you're in your joy doing what you love, you can sense when other people are responding to that, and that you're almost giving them some of that joy, and they're in receivership of that, and it's that exchange point where that's the golden part to it.
Yeah. The currency, I like that. Like that, I said currency. The joy currency, it's infinite. The joy currency, it's infinite, because when people who are wanting to see a show and they're looking forward to watching a performance, they're there and they're present. They're not sitting in the audience thinking about what dinner they didn't cook, or if they've done the washing, or if the kids have been arguing in the car. They're there ready to enjoy. And the people who are performing, look, if someone's got something going on at home, like I remember dancing sometimes when I'd found out like my puppy had died, or I'd argued with an old boyfriend, or something else at home was affecting my joy for dance. You know, it wasn't just about dancing, because if you're miserable at home, you're not going to really love dancing. Or if you are, it's just for a split second. And when you come back, it's still going to be horrible back at home. So it's not the doing thing that I'm drawn to anymore. It's the feeling.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And I think the feeling can only be really, really felt when we're in the present moment. And I think a lot of the time, especially even dancers who are always racing to make it, when they're missing the present moment in every single opportunity that they're getting in the moment. Because, you know, when you get to the gig, you've got to get ready. And when you're ready, you've got to get on stage. And when you get off stage, you've got to pack up. And, like, there's always the next thing to do. It's like, whoa, just slow down for a second. Like, this is it. You have made it. You are here now. This is where you are. And that feeling is something that I am so grateful I figured out. Because otherwise I'd be doing a crazy run around forever and never stop.
Yeah.
I'd miss the whole thing. My partner actually is a huge positive light for me, because he used to show me my shadow side. I was not aware of a lot of these things that I had with dancing, the identification around it. And he said to me, you know the Looney Tunes cartoon, the Tasmanian Devil, I think it is, or the one that just runs around really, really fast? What is that?
It's just like it's a cloud with legs.
It's a cloud with legs. He said he sees me as that. This is years ago. He goes, this is what I see you as. You come in, you're exhausted, you go out, you're busy, you do this, you do that. Like, at what cost are you going to keep doing this to yourself?
Yeah.
You know, for the love of dancing. So when I let go of the idea that dancing is what makes me happy, which is a huge shift, it's more about the energy exchange in what I do, and everything changed. And I think that has never been taught in the dance industry, because the dance industry is only focused on dancing, right? In simple terms. It would be so great if wellness and health and heart's quality and heart coherence can be integrated into the arts, because I think every dancer is very generous and we give so much, and we're often depleting ourselves for the cost, or for the glorious, fun, glamorous lifestyle that people think we have.
Yeah, I think the I think things are changing. I think that in different industries we're starting to see beautiful sun filtering in there.
I'm starting to turn into a ghost. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I think things are starting to change. You look like an angel. You've got the sun just the beaming down on your face. Just like, oh,
I'm cooking. Sorry.
Well, cooking is not good.
No.
But looking ethereal is awesome.
You see all my storage now. Oh, gosh, sorry.
Nature can be such pain.
Oh, let's just go with it. Oh, there we go. That'll do.
Yeah, I think that things are changing. I do think that people are starting to understand when they're in alignment, that they will connect with other people who match where they're at.
Yeah.
And then you get this exchange where it's just the value is so much greater, because they're sitting in that place of true alignment, and being aware of whatever the work that lights you up or sparks your flame, how it makes you feel, and then having that intention in everything that you do and how you transfer that to somebody else. That's another whole level of understanding how to get to your true north. Yeah,
it's just the following of the feeling the whole way through. And if there's negative emotion or discomfort or unease, that's a light up moment to be like, okay, what's going on inside me? Why am I feeling like this? And if anything, what I'd love to bring to the dance industry, I'm such a perfectionist with lighting. Look at me being funny about this. I'm catching myself have the moment. See, I'm conscious of it now. It's different. That I have discovered breath work, which is emotional healing, and it's deep work. And for me, without breath work, I would think I would have still been trapped in the dancer identity, and I would still have the belief that my success is defined by how busy I am, and that my happiness is defined by how successful I am, and how so interconnected those statements are. It would lead me to have that core wound of inadequacy and living in that I'm not good enough phrase or belief, no matter what I do. And I can't express enough how important that is to me, that I share that message with anyone in the arts, because I think everyone in the arts has this idea that we have to be suffering to be successful. We have to sacrifice to really make it. But we are human beings before we're dancers. And I think that's really important to get that message across to as many people as I can.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's relevant to all industries, because if you're in the space of not being enough or suffering, you're actually bringing lower level energy into what you're doing. And so in terms of whatever that exchange is with, either if it be a client or your audience or whoever it is, you're actually not bringing the best of yourself to it.
Yeah.
And then you're not giving the best to those who you want to serve, or and I think that it's just, it has a flow-on effect. So if you can really understand who you are, what you stand for, value yourself and your health and everything else, and know who you want to become, and be sort of confident in that, I think that you have so much more to give. Like, the value of what you offer is far greater, you know, and it's just both in what you give and in what someone else receives. So
there's a higher value on both ends. People would be more willing to pay and ask for entertainment when the energy on the other side is ready to give it fully. And we only give it fully if we are nurturing ourselves first. And this is something that everyone needs to learn. Like you said, it's not just in the dance industry or the performance industry. I think every industry needs to remember that there are human beings underneath whatever costume or identity that they're driving through. I think a lot of people are waking up to that now, and
I agree.
I think it's exciting, but it's going to be quite shaky for quite some time too, where people's identities are collapsing and they're having the infinite question of, who am I? And I strongly believe in sharing the framework around, we are not our mind, we are not our body, we are not our emotion. These are just experiences, and we're here for something much greater than that. So when it comes to getting up at 12 at midnight to do a gig, I'm going to say no thank you. There's a level of how much I'm going to demand on my body for a career. I'm going to bring it back why I started it. I started dancing because I loved it, and I'm going to continue to ride that feeling in no matter what it is that I do, so that I can still stay in tune with who I really am. And that's infinite to everyone. Everyone is that same experience. Everyone is infinite joy, infinite love, infinite peace. We are all conscious beings, and I think we're all waking up to that. And I hope that the dance industry gets to ride that wave sooner than later, because I've got such a soft spot for everyone in the industry. Everyone's gone through it.
Yeah. You're like the beacon. You're like leading the charge on that front, which is awesome. But
thank you. Sometimes I feel like it's a tough one to ride. It's like, am I really going to try and do this, or should I just close that chapter? But I can't. It's Pandora's box is open. So
I think we learn things. Like, I think we have these experiences and we gain awareness, and then there's so much value in sharing that with others, because like, I think one of the things that our discussion has kind of unpacked here today is the fact that there's an old way of doing things, and there's a way which is that you sacrifice everything about yourself, and you don't value yourself, and you're not authentic to yourself at your own peril. And I think the model is now shifting, and I do agree with you. I think that, and different industries will take different times, but I do think I am distinctly seeing a shift in that. Like, I'm seeing that becoming more accepted, slowly, but accepted. And I think that it's just, we have to not sign up for the one size fits all model that everybody has been sold is the only pathway and option. So I think that if you stand back and you say, well, it doesn't feel right for me to get up at midnight and then perform till 2 or 3 a.m. or something, then you don't need to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to be you and to say yes to this and no to that.
Yeah.
You know?
And on top of that, none of it's wrong. To like chuck the right wrong paradigm in the bin, completely forget about it. It just makes every decision moving forward so much easier and lighter. There's like less weight around making a decision in the fear of making the wrong one. Like, it's just a decision. So if anything, any VCU student, I'd love to be a keynote speaker for any keynote speaker. I got excited for any high school, because imagine if they could just reset that idea that if they get something, if they make a decision, it doesn't have to be right or wrong, where they've spent their whole childhood being marked and scored to fit a certain percentage, and right, wrong means good, bad. Really, it's like, you don't have to do it like that anymore. Yeah, high school has its purpose. The education system has a system for a reason. Not everyone works really well in that system. And hey, guess what? I have been that one fish swimming upstream since the beginning, forever. And look, I'm okay. I've come out all right. I've got a bit of a twitch. No, it's just you know, like, to have fun and be playful with it. We're alive human beings. We're on this planet that's spinning in space. It's like, when we like zoom out a little bit, it just brings a sense of, well, hey, can we just do this with a light heart? And you can change your mind. And if it doesn't feel good, listen to that, change it, follow the next thing, you know, just right, wrong, doesn't matter. Follow your heart. Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, and I think too with the right wrong thing, because sometimes what someone's right is you're wrong.
Totally.
So it's like you just have
a
to
never-ending battle. Never-ending battle. You could have a debate in school that would be never-ending on the right wrong, because there's going to be equal points for every single side, always.
Yeah, and that's the whole that concept of what your perception is your reality. And like, everyone's is different. So it's just knowing yourself is possibly the most fundamental thing that you can spend time on, which is know yourself incredibly well. Know what works for you, what lights you up. Like, that's the starting point. And I think that that's something in terms of going through schooling. We teach kids lots of amazing and interesting things about the world outside of themselves. But I think in terms of how we help them to look within at what at the things that really light them up, and the things that they have got natural aptitude for, and talents and interests in, and strengths. Like, we don't spend enough time helping them to get really familiar with who they are authentically, because when you're in such a better place to make choices in your own best interests. You know?
It's very empowering for anyone to know that they know who they are. How often, like, I still relate to, look, high school for me was definitely a challenge, because I knew I wanted to be somewhere else, and making the most of it was, you know, the best that I could. It's just the feeling that I have thinking of other people going through high school, knowing that if they can be empowered within themselves, then it doesn't matter if they don't nail their score. It doesn't matter if, you know, I like to play around with other adult conversations, is you didn't bugger it up on purpose. You're always going to be doing your best, whether that is as good as you wanted it to be or not. And teaching subjects, teaching language, teaching skills, all well and good, but it's all external. There's all these things out in the world that they're learning. What I'm doing is saying, well, like, let's just drop all that for a while. Let's tune back inside, and let's do some emotional work. Let's actually connect with what you feel inside as a human being. You're all completely different. You're all going to have a very different experience, and that's a gift. Like you said, cookie cutter is not the ideal way of doing life. It's we all need more authentic people, and connecting with the emotional states, connecting with the heart quality, and processing what comes up to empower people to make their own decisions without the fear of making it wrong
Yeah.
is, what's the next generation going to be like if they get to do it like that?
Yeah.
It'll be completely different.
It will. It will make the world of difference. Like
Yeah.
And I just think they can, if they know who they are and where they want to go without restriction, and understand that if they do, if their desire is strong enough, they will find a way.
Yes.
They will find people who have already done something similar, or they will find a pathway to follow that is going to get them from, where they are to where they want to get to. And I think it's just so incredibly important to help them to understand who they are within, because, all the things that are external to them disconnect them from understanding how to follow their own pathway.
Yeah, definitely. And on that, with having teachers from the very beginning, parents when they're a baby, primary school, high school, they've always got a coach, really. And then leaving high school, I remember it being quite daunting, but at the same time, because I went to full-time, I had teachers around me all the time, but we were not one-on-one with teachers. We were like one to many. Some of our classes had like 40 people in them at least, and more, so the one-on-one time to actually integrate feelings of concern or worry or fear or grief or sadness, whatever's coming up in our lives, that wasn't there. And I want to be able to create the space for young adults, and especially like highly sensitive girls is my genius zone, because I've grown up being one, that feel like going through the feelings to be empowered and have a coach to support you in that is really important. That you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to figure it out the hard way. There are so many other people that have already taken a certain path and fine-tuned it for themselves. And, you don't have to do it alone. It's like one of those take-home points. You can always have a mentor. You can always have a coach. Some of the most incredible, most amazing coaches have a coach. All of them probably do,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, you're right. And it's just like, it's from the minute you take your first breath, you've literally got in-house mentors. They're there sort of guiding you through, and then you've got even more mentors when you hit school. You've got all sorts of people who are involved in your circle that are helping guide you along the way. And then you get to that point where you just sort of cut adrift. And I think that there is so much merit in seeking help from somebody else, because it's not that you're not good enough and you don't know like how to do it. It's when you ask for help, you're actually giving someone else the opportunity to teach you something that you didn't know, or a way that you didn't know. And you also get to have that level of connection. And that's what we're here for. We're here to learn from each other, and we're here to connect with each other. And I think that, so getting help and finding a mentor is just like, it's such a sound way to make your journey smoother.
Totally. You don't have to have it all together by the time you finish high school. Like, we just, when you think about it, no one really ever has their shit together. We have gone through, even like thinking about parenting, and, I'm very grateful to have supportive parents, and my mum and I have done our breathwork coaching together. So we've gotten to know each other on a really deep level. And, thinking about coaching children, because I'm around children a lot with face painting and children's entertainment and teaching dance. When children talk to me about their parents, and they kind of give them a hard time because mum did this or dad did that or said that or didn't do, I go, well, hang on a second. Did you know that your parent is just a big kid with kids? That's all. No, they're just big kids with kids. They've never figured it out. They never thought that they finally made it as a human being so that they can reproduce. I guarantee you, a lot of the time, people with kids still don't know what they're doing. So it kind of gives us permission to just trust in our gut, go with the flow, and try and make the most of it, because at the end of the day, we're all here for an experience. We're never going to make it anywhere. There's never the end. We're never going to get there. I remember listening to an Abraham Hicks YouTube video, and she says, what is it? you human beings, you have got lists of to-dos that will last you many lifetimes. Like we want to do so much. We want to achieve so much. And I think that comes from a head-based society where we've been taught to think a lot, learn a lot, do a lot. And now I'm coming from a different place where I'm dropping the thoughts, letting go of the ideas, and just coming back into experience. And it's a slower pace. What a relief. It's a healthier way of living. And the transition from head to heart is very turbulent because it's deconstructing a whole life idea and identity around what life needs to be like. And shifting from head to heart is what I'm all about now. And it's how I like to coach the kids, whether I'm doing children's parties, like I said, or teaching dance. And it's how I live my life, whether I'm performing, coaching, spending time with my family, or just saying no to anything and everything so I can do some more yeses to myself to, slow the pace down instead of being in that constant go, go, go. I think that's really important.
I think if you can help kids to get out of their heads and into their heart and reconnect to how they feel, you will change the world. Like,
that's
honestly,
my plan. That's my plan.
Right. Do it.
You know what though? I joke about this with my other coaching friends as well, because we all do this kind of breathwork training together. And I always say, I feel as though I'm cheating because kids are like sponges and I have entertainment on my side. I know I can be a clown. I can be playful. I've got face painting to kind of trick them into sitting with me for a few minutes. Now I've got all these skills that kind of wrap up into this package that allow them to surrender and listen, and they soak it up. They're so quick at transitioning emotion. They are like, when you think about an adult where they've got a lifetime of experiences and emotional blocks in their body and beliefs and things that they've gone through, they're all traumatic to some degree, and they're harder to let go of because they've been identified with their thoughts and their feelings and their experience. Kids, they're like, it's almost cheating. Like I said, it feels as though I'm cheating because I get results with kids so quickly. And that's for me, that's like, okay, well, that's my easy path. That's for me the path of least resistance for working on emotional healing. Dancing is fun, so they're in straight away. Face painting, it's fun, so they're in straight away. And as long as I'm following my fun in all of that, connecting with kids and adults who like to get their faces painted too, all that kind of thing. As long as that feeling of fun is thread through everything that I'm doing, I know that I will attract the right person at the right time so that I can have that connection. It's not about the dancing anymore specifically. It can be Pilates, it can be entertainment, it can be dancing, face painting, putting bio-glitter on someone's face at a festival for 2 minutes can be all I need to just flick that light switch on for somebody so that they can start to consider moving out of their head and into their feeling body where their life will change completely.
It's the truth. It's completely the truth, because everything is energy, and that being able to be in your feeling body allows you to be as connected as possible to your energy, but also the energy around you. And so I think that it's a fundamental tool that if we can teach kids to be switched, understand that they can be up in their head or they can be in their heart space, and they're being conscious of what's guiding them, because there's those two places give very different guidance. Huge. And sometimes they can be in conflict, but and I agree with you. I think that what happens too is that as children age, and I know from working with young children, teenagers and adults, the openness, I think when they come into the life experience, they're just so open. And I mean, we know that they are because they're in that brain state for the first 7 years where they're literally just absorbing.
Subconscious is open completely.
The subconscious is completely open. And then what happens is as they travel along their journey, depending on what's happened in their zone of influence, some of them can remain relatively open, but typically what happens is that as the journey progresses, that just starts to narrow in. And then once they get into serious adulthood, it gets really hard to get back to that open place.
Yeah, they got to chug through all those experiences to finally come back to who they really are, which is, wow, it is a journey. It's huge. I'm 29 and my experiences of going back through all the stuff that's happened, it's not the easiest, most exciting thing to do, but my gosh, once we let it all go, it is invigorating, it is liberating, it's amazing, it's so freeing. And kids have a head start if we are able to reach them in this type of work, because again, one of the challenges I find is kids are open, but the parents of the kids may be limited in their belief to openness based on their experience and what they've gone through. So for me to be able to connect with children at birthday parties and dance classes through fun is a side door access into what we're doing, because sometimes it does feel a bit like therapy. Sometimes it does feel like we're trying to fix something that's not broken. That's the kind of mindset that I see and hear from parents that are maybe a little bit more fearful of supporting their kids in this way. And I'm still working on breaking through that barrier with parents to trust that they can heal with their kids at the same time. That all well and good, I can do this work with the kids, but when they go home and they're back at home with their parents and they've got different sets of values and beliefs and language, it's almost like it's undone again. And kids look up to their parents. So I really do want to know that, or want to make sure that the parents are on board with their kids, which is a whole nother topic, whole nother conversation around getting parenting in a heart coherence for their children too. That's another big one.
I think that is another one, and it's a really interesting conversation, because I think that generationally, Generation Z, like the generations that are coming through, are bringing changes. They are they're the way that they're responding to their environment and they're responding is very, very different. And I think that we will see change coming through, and that's why I think that if you can keep doing what you're doing, because I think it helps to support the understanding that how things are done from just like a completely thought-based place doesn't necessarily lead you to a place that you actually want to be.
No.
So
like I said at the start, you end up being 80 with a house, a family, kids, and a car, and think, how did I even get here? Like, what about the stuff in between? You can actually enjoy the ride. It's the emotional healing. I know we're kind of like slightly to the side, off track from following a dance career, but the emotional healing for me as a breathwork practitioner now, I would love to think that every high school student has the opportunity to do 10 weeks with me and go through every single chapter of emotional healing that would set them up to clear any emotional blocks that they've experienced through their childhood before they really step into adulthood. I think, it's something I have available now, but it's just a matter of having it available to them, whether the school provides it or whether the parents do. And the healing is in the feeling. I love that. And what we resist, we persist. Or what resists, persists. That the stuff that we've got going on from our childhood will be with us until we process it. Or the stuff that we had from this week or last week or the year before, or whatever experience that hasn't been fully felt needs to be healed so that we can move forward. So that's the stuff that I love. That's the stuff that I'm really getting into now, where the dancing, the teaching, the Pilates, all of that fun external creativity, that's all like my fishing line. That's me baiting everyone to come in.
Drawing them in.
Drawing them in and say, hey, there's this other thing that we can do and you're going to feel so much better. And the reason why is because I've been doing it myself for years now, and it's made a huge difference. I've healed period pain completely. I'm off all pain medication. It's been something that has controlled my life since I first got it. And that's another chapter, another talk we can do if you want. Huge sibling rivalry relationship with my sister was an absolute hell of an experience up until maybe 16 months ago. Huge breakthroughs, all because of breath work and emotional healing. And again, I wouldn't have come through to find any of this work unless I was feeling into my intuition and to what felt right for the next step. You know, I would have maybe still been banging my head against a brick wall trying to make a dance career work on its own. But I haven't. I've been following that feeling the whole way through, and fun is a part of it. Feeling is a part of it. Letting things go is definitely a part of it. And, you know, I'm where I am now with so much more to share because of the many things I have done.
Yeah, I think on that point, like in regards to careers, something that we will see more of moving forward is that historically careers were you pick something and you do that for the rest of your life, right? You only have, I have this sort of, I really love getting onto LinkedIn and just having a look at people's where like their history, because it's absolutely fascinating how many people start here and then end up going on this pathway and ending up somewhere so radically different from where they started. And it's just like, I know people who have been a ski instructor overseas and then gone into economics. I know someone who was in economics who ended up becoming a registered nurse.
Wow.
Like all the different, but what they did was where they started was just the beginning of the exploration that was to be their career. And it's just, as you have done, you started by the guidance of what you enjoyed, but your life has led you around, you know, along a pathway that has had various twists and turns. And now you've ended up somewhere where you've brought together all of those things that are in your toolkit for a greater purpose, you know. So I think that it's just, we've got to understand that careers aren't linear. Careers will take you to wherever you need to be taken on this journey towards your true north. And for some, it's quite a direct pathway. And for others, it's just going to be this beautiful journey that will evolve as it is meant to. And it's like, there's no, this isn't the right way. It's just that this is your way, you know? So that's something that they've really got to understand.
Huge. This has been such a great chat. It's nice and such a refreshing feeling to know that there are more people who have got values like myself who want to share and contribute to the next generation, any age really, who are looking for more support at whatever chapter in their life they're in. And I really do look forward to seeing, I think even if I just post this video as a raw, unedited clip on YouTube, people might come across it too, and we can share what we do with the world at a wider reach, which would be really good. Because I can't do my job unless someone wants to help, right? I can't perform unless someone wants to be entertained. I can't paint someone's face unless someone wants their face painted. So, you know, it's a two-way street.
I think and you'll have to maybe have a look at doing, you know, if you're giving them the dance lessons, hopefully the situation of the pandemic will improve, but if not, maybe bundling in like a Zoom session for them so that they can then, you know, blast that out to all the people that couldn't come to their wedding.
I know. That's terrible, isn't it? We've had some wedding choreography lessons booked before the pandemic, and look, I do think it can be done. Teaching wedding choreography through Zoom could be done. Definitely challenges me as a teacher because I'm so hands-on. Even teaching Pilates when the pandemic happened, before we all shut down fully, we changed from verbal and tactile cues to only verbal cues, and humans who are used to being touched and moved into a position so that they do it correctly, you take that away, it's like learning a whole new language again. And I think the human connection is where we all thrive. And this is an opportunity to remember that we miss this and we want it, so that when we come out the other end, people will be looking for it more. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what can come after this pandemic and how we will look at life and how people will treat themselves after this as well. And hopefully I can just steam ahead, go as fast as I can and help as many people with their dancing goals that they need if they've got a wedding that they're hanging to have. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the connection, it's the joy, it's the feeling that they have when they're doing it. It's not what we're doing. So we'll figure it out. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. We'll just pivot and be adaptable.
Yes, absolutely. Did I answer everything-ish? We kind of went in a
Oh,
roundabout way, didn't we?
yeah, we did, but I think we did. I think we've covered off pretty much most of the things. Oh, okay, just one more.
Yeah,
One, this is a wrap-up question.
yeah, sure.
If everything that you have done throughout your 29 years
I don't
here on
know. Sorry,
here
keep
on
going.
here on
Keep going.
Earth,
Keep going, yeah.
here on what aspect or event in your career just brings, like, what's the number one thing that pops into your mind that has brought you the greatest amount of joy? What have you done in your career that moment or that event or just that experience that it just is a standout that just made you feel on top of the world?
Ah, let me
Just a nice
think.
easy one to wrap up.
Really good question. It's relative to the age that I was at each moment. So in that idea of reaching for the next best thing or striving to become more of who I wanted to be, whenever I reached that, that was the highlight. And then chasing for the next one was the next one. So, leaving high school to go to full time was like huge. It was the best thing. That was like, couldn't get any better than that. And then,
Yeah.
being picked as one of the top 6 girls that we got most of the work all year round because we had the right height, the right look. It just happened to be perfect timing. We got to perform on a lot of the big corporate functions and with like Jason Coleman when he was performing on stage with us, and it was really exciting having all those opportunities. But now looking back at everything, I think if I would to look back from a place of heart coherence, knowing that I was feeling into that, I know this is a good one. When I realized that I could manifest and create my own reality, this is huge. I auditioned for Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, and the day that I had the audition, I was so early, so organized, had a great night's sleep. For me, back in the day, maybe still now too, I had trouble going to bed on time. Mum and Dad gave up on that a long time ago. Such a night owl, or just an energetic brain in the nighttime. And anyway, so I got to the audition really, really early. I was like one of the first 10 there, and I realized I'd forgotten my CV, my headshot and my paperwork for the audition. And I was at this moment in my life where I was like, okay, do I just go home, go back to bed and don't worry about it? Or do I get home, get the CV, come back and hopefully make it? I feel like I could write a movie or a book about it. I got in my car, I drove back over the West Gate, all the way back to Werribee, called Mum and Dad in the car on the way. I forgot my CV. I was all stressed and erratic and all this worry. Got the CV, went back to the audition, got in just in time. So I was one of the last dancers out of the hundreds that were there. I got in just in time. I danced for like 7 hours, made it through all the calls, all the callbacks, and they took my my paperwork, my headshot. They took a video of us at the end and said, we'll be in touch. I was thinking, oh, maybe I've actually got this gig. Maybe I've actually landed a contract. It's not just a weekend job. This is a big thing. Anyway, so I get home while the feeling is really good in my body. And I remember writing down on a piece of paper in Dad's office, because we've always been big about, positive speaking and affirmation and, all of that kind of thing. I think we've got a picture of it somewhere on Facebook where I had written, I will receive a contract with Royal Caribbean Cruise Line by a certain date. And I wrote February on the side, just like when I had finished writing, I wrote February. And then I forgot about it. It was pinned up on a cork board in the office and forgot about it. That audition was in November, I think. And I ended up getting an email with an offer to join Royal Caribbean Cruise Line's Grandeur of the Seas in February. Months later,
Wow.
I'd forgotten about it. The whole set and forget it method was real. It happened. And, I had forgotten about this affirmation, this writing. It's like an incantation, right? So an affirmation with feeling is an incantation. And because I had forgotten my CV, And because I had decided to get there, back home and back again, I had really felt I've activated my body so much that I really, 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 really wanted this. I remember driving over the Westgate Bridge, looking at like the Tassie cruise ships and all that sort of stuff that's over at the port, thinking that's going to be one of mine. I'm going to be on one of the cruise ships. This is it. I was really like in this kind of zone. But after the audition, months had passed. I'd forgotten about it. You know, it's the holidays, it's summer, the schools have all closed. And I got the email and I was just completely blown away. And while I was away on the cruise ship performing, my dad sent me the picture that he found after cleaning out the corkboard, because, you know, it gets a little full after a while. And he goes, "You effing genius. Look what you did." You know, he goes, "Look at what you can do." You know, and that was like such a highlight for me. It wasn't necessarily about the cruise ship. It was about the fact that when I set my heart, my body, my mind, when everything is in flow, look at what I can create. And that was, huge moment for me. And I think more and more how much I'm being led to do what I'm passionate and love with joy comes from those moments where, you know, it's not someone telling me what to do. It was me telling myself I want to, not have to. I have to find that picture and share it with you. It's so
love
funny.
That story. I love that story for so many reasons, because it's just the ability to have influence on your own path. Like if you're in alignment with what it is that you want, and you set that intention and then you approach it with that mindset that is just really positive, but you just then let it be. The power that comes from that is phenomenal. And I have, in terms of students that have wanted to get certain outcomes and scholarships, I encourage everybody, if you're applying for a scholarship, is to write yourself an acceptance email saying congratulations, you have received, and then
as if it's happened already.
As if it's happened already, but just leave it like, so instead of putting that energy out that is very much like, oh gee, there's so many people, I hope I get it, just detaching from that and just doing what you did. And you just basically, you were very, very clear in what your intention was, and then you just let it take its course. And it's such a powerful thing. It's just it's an awesome highlight, and I'm very glad you shared
I'm
it.
so glad I remembered. It's such a nugget. It's such a nugget.
It is.
Such a
It's
nugget.
gold.
Yeah. It's been fun reminiscing and sharing so much of my personal experience. It's refreshing and exciting, and realizing how much I've actually done.
You have, and you just like, you're so heading in to a direction where not only are you finding your greatest joy, that then has this magic to be passed to other people and to have real benefit. And that's magic. Like, it's just fantastic. And I loved hearing like the journey that you've been on. And I think that so many people will appreciate you sharing that, because there's so many things to take from it, in that it is a pathway that has had its own course to a degree. Just the fact that the support, the power and the support from your parents has just been phenomenal. And the fact that you've come from an environment that is positive and encouraging, and like, there's such gifts for a parent to give a child. The fact that, like, even your mum doing the course with you and sharing in that, like, there's magic in all the parts that you've shared with us. And I'm really grateful that you've
Thank you.
let us in to
absolutely.
the story.
Look, my mum was the crazy lady who wanted to bring meditation when I was in primary school to the schools. And back then, like, that was still very airy-fairy when I was in primary school. And I still, to this day, remember when I was in primary school not wanting to go to school because I hated primary school. It was horrible. I have so many little, like, inner child healings I've been going through, bullying and body image and all kind of things there, that when I knew that my mum was going to a meditation group, I would pull a sickie. I would say I was sick, my knee hurts, or whatever I could do to get out of going to school, so I could go with mum to her meditation groups. and she would go to, you know, Peter Brock, the car driver, the racing car driver. His wife, Bev, she ran meditation retreats up in their beautiful property. And so I knew when Mum was going to these, Mum, I don't feel very well. I don't want to go to school. And I got to have the day going meditation groups and this beautiful nature and these beautiful trees inside buildings and all these things that, you know, I knew from the beginning what felt good.
Yeah.
Mum only found out about this only about 2 years ago, by the way. She had no idea.
You could have done theatre. You're obviously very good at acting.
Oh, yeah, it was great. No, only when I wanted to, though, right? So, it's very grateful for the support that I've had. And if anything, I'm very grateful that I have woken up to my own experience, to come back into healing all the things I've gone through myself as a young woman, so that I can move forward feeling lighter and more free, so that I can help others a lot more than I would have if I didn't do the work on myself.
Yeah.
It's a huge, huge part. If anything, I'd love to share before we close off, the biggest, deepest core wound for me through breath work was so twisted in a way that unless I did the work, I wouldn't have discovered it. My sister and I and our relationship had been cheese and chalk from the beginning. And it came through a set of beliefs that I had as a little sister, right? The bigger sister was always there first. She was smarter, she was prettier, she was skinnier, all these things that I was different from in her. So whatever I saw in her was better, because I never thought I would ever be enough compared to her. There's this beautiful, heartbreaking story around it. And the other side of that was she was quite hard to love because she used to pick on me. Her language was quite bullying when I was younger. But I realized as I got older, I actually was stronger than her. I had physical strength on my side, and she had the emotional stuff down pat because I was such a gooey, emotional, highly sensitive young girl. So we've had this lifelong battle of trying to love each other unconditionally with all of these unexpressed resentments and pains from childhood. And so Mum and Dad got it, just did it, threw their hands in the air. They didn't know what to do. They kind of just let us try and figure it out. Dad would always say, when we asked him every Christmas, "Hey, Dad, what do you want for Christmas?" And he'd say, "All I want is for you two to get along with your sister. That's all I want." And it wasn't until I did breath work that I healed through anger. I let some anger out as a session, and let go of all of this resentment and inner pain that I had around as a little girl towards my sister. Something shifted. I didn't think I had any anger there, but we had a go and something came out, and it was really quite a shift. And within maybe a couple of weeks of those sessions, my sister had been pregnant at the time with her first baby, and she called me and asked me if I would teach her prenatal Pilates. And I nearly fell on the floor, dropped the phone. I was thinking, is there a hidden agenda here? Are you trying to set me up? Are you feeling okay? And ever since I did the breathwork session, our relationship has completely shifted. We're like best buddies. We get along like I could never have imagined. And I think that shift has helped me connect with so many more people, knowing that the more emotion I clear and experience in myself, the more I can let that go, the more I can be open to others. And so if everyone else can do the same thing for themselves, if they can be responsible for their own feeling, their own body and emotion and their experiences, the more open they will be to connect with others themselves. It'll open up so many more opportunities in their life. And I feel so blessed and so grateful for the things that have come over the last few years, especially. Everything just keeps falling into my lap with work and personal life opportunities. It's just a breath of fresh air, really. And the core wound around that for me with dancing connected to my sister, because looking at the child wound of I'll never be good enough, I'm always inadequate, not as smart as my sister, and all that kind of stuff. She was the one who had the car, the dogs, the house. She's in real estate. She's incredibly successful. I always set her up on this pedestal.
Mm.
And as a child, looking at that and then connecting to dancing when I started when I was 4, I subconsciously subconsciously actually used my love of dancing as a way to separate from myself, which is a huge thing, right? So through my love of dancing, I actually abandoned my true self and didn't realize this until only a few years ago, that because of that, I had spent my whole life racing ahead, being busy, trying to achieve lots of things, do lots of things. And, I still loved it, but my love of dancing was actually the thing that separated myself from myself, which is so huge. And the shift when I felt that, I had the biggest cry. I felt so sad that I've left this young, sweet 4-year-old version of me, big ears. My ears used to stick out and they were all the way out here when I was little. And there's this version of me that I left all the way back there because I was noticed more with dancing. I was happier when I was dancing. I was more successful when I was dancing because school wasn't great. Dancing was better. All of these things that kind of layered upon each on themselves separated me from myself, every single thing, which is why for me now, using breathwork and emotional healing as the real main point of what I do, so that everyone else can remember who they really are first before that they put the dancer hat on, before they put the whatever industry they go into, that they actually can be with themselves fully before they go out to experience whatever it is they want to experience. Because I lost myself completely and I was unaware of it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can look at this now and feel like I've come out the other end is probably why I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't get to get these experiences if they just go to school and get a job. This is not something that everyone gets to experience, and I would like to try and make that more available to so many more people, whether it be meeting them through a children's birthday party or at a festival or at a show or at a dance class or at a Pilates class, however I can get people in,
Look, no, I think it's such a beautiful story because there's so much self-reflection in it though. Like you have to give yourself the permission to look very deeply into your own story, and I think that can be really difficult. And I know that when I work with students and adults, what happens is I can help someone identify who they are and get them to really start to dig into who they are authentically and what they stand for, what's important to them, and also start to look at where they want to go. But what happens is that in terms of me then assisting them to follow their true north in that direction of who they want to become, there are anchors. There are anchors that stop them from making the progress that they could be making because they've collected these things along their journey for whatever reason. And they can be environments, beliefs. There's a whole stack of different things that come into it. There's so many things. And so until you address your anchors, you can try as hard as you want, but basically you're not going to make the progress that you can until those things are addressed. And that's why what you're talking about is so fundamental, because they're like layers on top of your potential that have to be peeled back. And then once you've done that, like, it opens everything up, you know. And it's just you can't progress when something's weighing you down, you know. And it's just
not.
But quite often they don't even know that something's weighing them down. So
I was just going to say that. I didn't know that was a spot for me. I thought that my life was just how it was going to be. My relationship with my sister, for example, or period pain controlling me, or, you know, having to always be really busy doing so many things to justify not being good enough. Like, in my own belief within underneath that, without doing the work on myself, I would never have seen that as an anchor. I would have just been like, oh, well, this is just how it is. This is my story, and I'm going to bring it all with me, you know?
Absolutely. It's just, if when, and that mechanism of using breath work to be able to find what those things are is the tool that allows you to uncover what it is that's hindering your progress.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, it's completely freeing, you know.
Yeah.
I think that so
And
you just keep hooking those.
I can do as much as I can. The thing is with breath work too, though, if I would love to, like, if this video reaches as many of your clients and students and family and friends, wherever this gets to, breath work for me, as the deep-seated underlying why of everything else that I'm doing, for me, it is so empowering to feel my own experience and integrate and process my own experience through a breathwork session, because no one's telling me what to do, how to do it. It goes to like my little rebellious high school student version of me, not wanting to be told what to do, right? And I remember going to a therapy counselor when I was in primary school. Hated it. Mum and Dad thought it would be a good idea. So I remember going and sitting in this smelly dark room, and the lady she just had this particular look, and it's not very clear, but it's, you know, what I can remember. All I remember specifically was that I would tell her what she needed to know so I could get out of there. I wasn't telling her what was going on with me. She wouldn't understand. How would she know me? You know, there's these stories as a young girl. And not to put any bad vibes on any therapist or, you know, practitioner in that light, because I see myself as one of them now, that breath work is empowering for people to experience. They get to go through their own process. They get to do it when they're ready. They go as far as they want to go. So with like young adults in high school making a decision for where they want to go, they can process these emotions coming through their body rather than analytically trying to figure out what they need to do next. It's going to be a process in their feeling that will shift. And they won't even have an expectation of what's going to happen. I never have an expectation of what will happen when I go through a session myself. But something always comes up. There's always something there, you know, we're emotional beings.
What needs to come up will come up. Always.
Yeah. So the more that this video can go out to the world, and the more people that can see it, and if they feel intrigued or curious or drawn to our energy, the way we speak to each other as well, has been really great. There's an opportunity for so many more people to jump on board this the joy train.
The true north train.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for hearing all of that. That was lots of fun to share as well.
Yeah, and I love talking with you. It's fantastic. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who will really enjoy just coming on that journey with us, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do we do next? What's the next plan? What's the go from here? What would you like to do?
I think we should have another conversation about what you do with your breath work.
Yeah.
And how that would benefit students. I think that could be. What do you think?
I would love to do. This is how I see a lot of the things that I'm still doing within my business. It's like a package workshop where we come in, we do dancing if they like dancing. We come in, we do Pilates if they like Pilates. Whatever it is they enjoy, we bring that out onto the physical table where we can, you know, loosen up and have some fun. And then we get into the real work, which is, you know, the emotional healing component, because that's where the magic is. You can go to the gym 24/7, overtrain, and still never be happy with yourself. You can overstudy, become knowledgeable, and still never be happy. You can do what you think you need to be doing, but still never fully be happy. And so being able to create a workshop and a space where people can relax a little, have some fun, learn about this emotional healing, then they're really going to make some big changes in their lives. And that's what I'd love to do. Love to share that as much as I can. Yeah,
and I think too, like in that time, like when you're in the last 2 to sort of 1 year of your high school experience, the pressure is phenomenal. Like it's like a pressure cooker with everybody stressed about what they're going to do and their marks, and they're all being, you know, like they're getting their they're doing all of their trials and everything else. And if there's something that just allows them to create some space and pause and reflect and then not get caught up in that, I think that would be hugely valuable.
It is, absolutely. I can't wait for as many people to take this on as much as possible. I think it would benefit everyone's studies, whatever age they're at, whether it's high school or beyond. everyone, my business name, the side project for Jacq of all trades is Breathing Space. We've got Breathing Space Healing Centre, and it's where I would bring a healing space for someone one-on-one through Zoom. We can do emotional healing here, but we can also do one-on-one in person or one-to-many in groups at workshops, at schools or studios and all kinds of other places where we do the work. We actually unpack and go through the layers of feeling, because our monkey mind will never stop chitter-chattering if we let it. So yeah, I'd love to, however anyone would like to receive it is how I can bring it to the table, because I do feel so multi-skilled that whatever people need I can bring to the table and we can make it work. So it's a really nice way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think we'll have another chat about just learning more about your process. I think if you're happy with that, and then what maybe during that session what people can do next if they want to learn more, engage in that process, you know.
It might be something that would sit really nicely with what you're doing within your business too. It's sounds like you're really doing many wonderful things to support young adults, especially through school and beyond, to find their true north, as you say, and to really light themselves up in their path. And, you know, without processing the emotional stuff, they will never fully get to that true north. There'll always be something slightly pulling them back, as you say, anchors. And I think we could make a really cool team for some people if they want to really get into the work.
I think so.
It's a little scary for some people, but it's also very exciting as well. So I'd love to.
And I think you say, I was going to say, I think, as you said before, whoever is meant to connect with it will.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll reach the people to connect with.
Yeah, definitely. And if parents can see this video, parents, if you're watching, open your mind, open your hearts, please. Your kid's life depends on it, and so does yours. If people will hear it.
Your kid's joy. Your kid's joy.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I think that's the thing too, is like it's about following your true north, but it's also about fulfilling your potential. And so whatever we can do for our kids to give them the boost that they need, and you know, as your parents have done for you, like the more we can do, and be open-minded to just new techniques and new ways, you know. I think that's just the best thing that we can do with parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's chat more about breathwork in another call. I'm really looking forward to doing that. And for anyone who's watching this video, I bet you're hanging on to find out when we're going to do it. We'll have to tell you another time. Are you happy for me to post this video just live as we've done it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And I can also send you the audio so you can upload it wherever you'd like to as well.
Yeah, if you can send it to me, and then I can post it to my YouTube, and we can get it out there.
Woohoo! Sounds like a great plan. Look, we went much longer than I thought we would. We've got so much we can share and chat about, which is so nice. It felt very natural. So really looking forward to what we do next.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.
And thank you for sorting out the video.
It's magic. Your connection worked.
I can't believe it. Yesterday, it makes it, you know why? Because it was meant to be. That's
it was meant to be. Look, I put my makeup on for this video. You know, I made some effort. You know, we're working from home.
I know. It all worked out perfectly. So
it does.
Just fantastic.
At the end of the day, we are all human and we're all wanting to connect. And I'm glad that this connection worked so that we can reach as many people as we can. So that at the end of the day, that's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon, and whoever else is watching, enjoy as well.
And we look forward to coming back and sharing some more soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.